Swastiastu. Hello everyone, my name is Ana Agung Mirandina, number of student 2011 17 10 45. I'm a member from group 6 and I get to present you about the chapter 17 and that's about extensive and intensive reading. So guys, today we will discuss about three material. The first, introduction about extensive and intensive reading. The third, we will discuss about what is extensive and what is intensive reading and what is different from both. And the last, we will learn about reading lesson sequence. So let's move for the first section. So guys, reading is the means to study something wherein the reader looks at the word, symbol, and characters of the material so as to comprehend its meaning. Extensive reading and intensive reading are the two common approaches to language learning. Basically, an ideal reading program combines both the approaches, wherein intensive reading can be used to acquire new language and extensive reading can be helpful in speeding awareness of that language. So, in this table, we can see the difference between the extensive and intensive reading. For the first, we can see about the meaning of extensive and intensive reading that have different meaning. Extensive reading is an approach to language learning in which long text and a large amount of the material are read by the student for general understanding. While intensive reading is a reading method wherein the learners are supposed to read the short text. You can short text carefully and deeply so as to gain maximum understanding. From the nature, extensive reading is the supplementary, while the intensive reading is the comprehensive. From the purpose, extensive reading used for acquiring information or for pleasure, while intensive reading used for understanding the literal meaning of the text. And we can also see the covers of extensive reading of novel, magazines, and newspaper, while from the intensive reading we can reading of textbooks. And in extensive reading we no need to use dictionary, but in intensive reading we need to use dictionary to understand about what we will do in intensive reading. And extensive reading is helpful in developing reading fluency, while in the intensive reading is developing reading skills, vocabulary, and grammatical knowledge. And that's about the difference and the basic for comparison about the extensive reading and intensive reading. To more understand about extensive and intensive reading, there are some kinds that we need to understand. Okay, in extensive reading, we have discussed the importance of extensive reading for the development of our students' word recognition and for their improvement as readers overall. But it is not enough to tell students to read a lot. We need to offer them a program which includes appropriate material, guides, tags, and facilities such as a permanent or portable libraries of books. So, for the first unit is extensive reading materials. Extensive reading materials is one of the fundamental conditions of a successful intensive reading programs is that students should be regarding material which they can understand. If they are struggling to understand every word, they can hardly be reading for pleasure and main goal of the activity. And the second is setting up a library. In order to set up an extensive reading program, we need to build a library of suitable books. Although it may appear costly, it will be money well spent. If necessary, we should persuade our schools and institutions to provide such funds or raise money through other sources. And the third is the role of teacher programs. Most students will not do a lot of extensive reading by themselves unless they are encouraged to do so by teachers. Clearly, then, our role is crucial. We need to promote reading and by our own exposure of reading as a valid option persuade students of its benefit. Perhaps, like for the example, we can socially read aloud from books we like and show our manner of reading, and that will make our student more interesting. And the last is extensive reading text. Because students should be allowed to choose their own reading text, following their own likes and interests, they will not all be reading the same text at once. For this reason, and because we want to prompt students to keep reading, we should encourage them to report back on their reading in a number of ways. One approach is to set aside a time at various points in course, say every 2 weeks, at which students can speak, question, and or tell their classmates about books. Yeah. That's all we can understand about extensive reading, and we can move to intensive reading. And there are four kinds about intensive reading. In order to get a student to read enthusiastically in class, we need to work to create interest in the topic and text. However, there are further rules we need to adopt when asking students read intensively. The first is organizer. We need to tell students exactly what their reading's purpose is, give them clear instruction about how to achieve it, and explain how long they have to do this. Once they have said you have 4 minutes for this, we should not change that time unless observation suggests that is necessary. And the second is observer. When we ask students to read on their own, we need to give them space to do so. This means restraining ourselves from interpreting that reading, even though the temptation may be add more information or instruction. While students are reading, we can observe their progress since this will give us valuable information about how well they are doing individually and collectively. And the third is feedback organizer. When our students have completed the task, we need to lead a feedback session for check that they have completed it successfully. We may start by having them compare the answer in pairs and then ask for answer from the class in general or from pairs in particular. Students often appreciate giving pair answer like this since by sharing their knowledge, they are also sharing their responsibility for the answer. And the last is prompter. When students have read the text, we need prompt them to notice language features within it. We may also, as controllers, direct them to certain features in text construction, clarification ambiguities, and making them aware of issues of text structure which they had not come across proficiently. Okay, that's about the intensive reading, and we can compare the intensive reading between the extensive reading before I tell you guys. And the last, our material is about the reading lesson sequence. So guys, sequencing means being able to identify the components of an event in order, such as beginning, middle, and end of story, or the step assigned experiment. Sequencing events in story is a comprehension strategy for reading. Important reading skills such as comprehension and connecting depend on the reader's ability to understand how major events unfold. Understanding words like first, next, then, and after help readers make sense of time in reading. We use intensive reading sequence in class for a number of reasons. We may want to have students practice specific skills such as skimming or reading for general understanding. We may, on the other hand, get students to read text for cognitive purpose as part of their activities as search information or in order to identify specific use of language. Most reading sequences involve more than one reading skill. We may start by having students read for keys or then get them to read the text again for detailed comprehension. They may start by identifying the topic of a text before or skimming the text quickly to recover specific information. They, uh, they may read for specific writing. Okay, so guys, that's about the reading lesson sequence, and this is the last for me. Thank you for watching and listen what I said for you. I hope that what I share can be you can be you use for your knowledge. Okay, that's all for me, guys. Thank you for watching. I close with thank you and Paramasanti. Om Santi 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 Om. Bye bye.